When Six Flags Qiddiya City opened to the public, it debuted with some of the best roller coasters in the entire world, including the tallest, fastest, and longest roller coaster on the planet, Falcon's Flight. Directly next to Falcon's Flight, however, is a ride that didn't break any records. The first wooden coaster in Saudi Arabia, known as Colossus. In a park full of so many novelty experiences, Colossus on first glance doesn't have any outstanding features. It was manufactured by GCI, designed by Skyline Attractions, and has many of their signature banked turns, airtime hills, and fast-paced transitions. The only gimmick is that this part of the world is not used to seeing a wooden roller coaster. Prior to this, the only wood coaster was Hala Madrid at Dubai Parks and Resorts, and that had only been operating for about a year before Qiddiya opened. So for many people, this is their first time experiencing a ride of this caliber, and GCI did not hold back. Six Flags Qiddiya City said, "We want one of the most thrilling, extreme wooden coasters ever built," and they got it. Colossus only stands 95 feet tall, has a top speed of 50 miles per hour, less than 3,000 feet of track, and it does not let up. This is one of the most unhinged extreme wooden roller coasters on the planet. And after riding it for my first ever time at the grand opening of Six Flags Qiddiya, I could not believe how well paced this ride was. A roller coaster I underestimated and should have been paying more attention to. This is going to be my full in-depth review of Colossus, the ride more people should be talking about, but aren't because it's next to Falcon's Flight. So I'm going to give it a little bit of love, dive into the layout, trains, theme, and at the end of the video, give the ride a final score. But for a little bit of context, Colossus is the signature attraction in the Grand Exposition section of Six Flags Qiddiya. The land is advertised as celebrating innovation, a very turn-of-the-century feel combining nostalgia and the greatest feats of science and technology. It's a very appropriate theme for a modern wood coaster, as inherently, the oldest coasters on the planet all go back to wood. It's one of the oldest forms of theme park entertainment, and in a world now dominated by steel coasters, it's a rarity and a big deal anytime a new wood coaster pops up, especially one that tries to go above and beyond what has historically been done before. GCI is known for some of the most complete, full package wood coaster experiences, fast-paced layouts that keep you guessing and leave you wanting to jump back in line. A GCI at Six Flags Qiddiya was a no-brainer, but they wanted something a bit more extreme. Up until recently, GCI was primarily known for their Millennium Flyer trains, a very comfortable, couch-like vehicle that was perfect for floater airtime. But if GCI wanted to achieve 0Gs or even inversions, they would need a new design. Enter the Infinity Flyers, a Class 5 train that's a hydraulic lap bar as opposed to the traditional ratcheting restraint, a retractable seatbelt, and all that allows for some of the most intense airtime you can get on a wood coaster. The downside was, this is an inherent risk. It's the first time that we're seeing this train on a ride of this size. The first coaster to receive this train was Zambezi Zinger at Worlds of Fun, a family thrill coaster, which received mixed opinions. I had the opportunity to ride it in its opening year, and it was fine. Definitely not my favorite of some of their products, and a lot of that did come down to the trains, whose lap bars absolutely suffocated your waist. As the train traveled further along through the track, the lap bar would just come closer and closer to your body, to the point where it was like painful. It absolutely detracted from the experience, and so there was a little part of me that was worried when I found out that Colossus would once again have those trains. Would it have the same problem, or would it no longer be an issue? After climbing aboard Colossus and traveling through the layout, my first thoughts as we hit the brake run was, wow, that was awesome, but ow, that lap bar is suffocating. Unfortunately, it felt the exact same as my rides on Zambezi Zinger, which I was surprised about because I was under the impression that as of 2025, that's no longer a problem. People I've talked to have recently ridden Zambezi said that those restraints don't get anywhere near as tight as they used to. And if that change can be implemented on Zambezi, why did Colossus not open with the same change? My first thought was, well, maybe this ride was in development around the same time as Zambezi. I mean, keep in mind, Six Flags Qiddiya City was announced back in 2019, and we knew then and there that they would be receiving a wooden roller coaster. So assuming they went through the actual design phases, maybe a couple years later during COVID, it's possible that at the time they didn't know it would be an issue. But clearly, as we see it on Zambezi, it can be fixed, and so my hope is that Colossus sees the same changes implemented, because if you were able to resolve how tight that lap bar gets during the ride experience, your experience on Colossus will be significantly better, because outside of those trains, this ride has just about everything going for it. That entrance arch is iconic. Six Flags Qiddiya City is mainly a nighttime park, so this ride is covered in chaser lights. It is gorgeous. The queue is really pretty, tons of posters on the wall, and the layout is one of the most impressive that I have ever seen. So right away, I gotta give a huge shout out to that team at Skyline Attractions. I know a bunch of them are coaster enthusiasts, and after riding Colossus for myself, it feels like this ride was designed by people who just genuinely love roller coasters, because it features exactly the type of elements and pacing that I as an enthusiast look for in a ride. The stats are not everything, and it doesn't need to be. As you crest over the top, you're getting a beautiful view of the core layout in front of you, Spitfire in the distance, that huge Falcon's Flight Camelback on your right hand side. You plunge down a very steep first drop. An exact angle has not been released. My assumption is around 70 degrees. It's pretty steep. Excellent in the back row, and it's refreshing to see a traditional straight drop on a GCI coaster. So many GCIs swoop to the side as a first drop, and I like that here we have something that is actually going to give me airtime in the back row. And Colossus throws in a little low to the ground twist before you rocket into that first airtime hill. The bottom of this drop reminded me a lot of iSpeed at Mirabilandia. You start off traveling straight out and then just bank slightly to the right and then immediately turn to the left. And you just have so much power and force going into this camelback. It's a slightly more gradual ramp up to the apex, and then you just suddenly drop off the end. That means you're going to get crazy airtime into the hill and in the back coming out. That's one of the first moments when you'll really start to notice that, yeah, the airtime on this ride is going to hit different than most other wood coasters you've done. This fan turn is the far side of the attraction. You pretty aggressively rise up, bank to an angle, and then aggressively switch directions at the top. Especially when you sit in the back here, you're getting airtime out of this twist, which you might not expect, but Colossus is designed to toss you around. That makes this turn way crazier than elements that you might see on like Thunderhead. You ride parallel to that airtime hill, ducking underneath some of the steel structure, these beams going across, and you just suddenly twist to the right, ducking underneath a section track, and then aggressively turn now to the left. This back-to-back twist reminds me so much of Intimidator Theory 5 and Maverick. It is sudden and aggressive, and typically on GCI, you'll get twisted airtime, but you don't necessarily get whipped like laterally. On Maverick or Intimidator Theory 5, those rides with over-the-shoulder restraints, you need them because of how your body is being pushed side to side. It feels like that same sort of thing on this twist, except here you just have a lap bar. It hits you so fast you have no idea what just happened, and somehow you still manage to get airtime at the peak. I don't know if it's actually the tightest turn on the ride, but it certainly feels that way. We're only a couple elements in, and Colossus means business. You'll rocket right up against the ground and then rise up into GCI's first ever outer bank. Because these trains can handle 0G, it makes sense that we're finally seeing an element like this on one of their thrill coasters. It's very RMC-like. I've expressed in the past how much of a shakeup that company has had on the amusement industry. We've seen how many of their elements that they've coined have made their way to other manufacturers such as Intamin. I'm not surprised that we're now seeing that at GCI. And should we see future coasters of theirs with these Infinity Flyer trains, I wouldn't be surprised if we also see more outer banks. Following this turn, we rise up into another airtime hill. Another great powerful moment. Again, I would enjoy all these a lot more if my legs weren't getting crushed. And should they resolve this issue, I think that you really will rocket out of your seat here. This is the turnaround point on the other side of the attraction, and unlike the beginning where you do this like highly banked turn, Colossus has way more laterals at this moment. It reminds me of something you'd see on like one of those older CCIs. And it's nice because that allows the train to then have this big drop off, like another pretty decent sized drop on a GCI coaster. Historically, GCI wasn't really known for drops. You went to them for twisted airtime and like crazy transitions. But I think Colossus shows that, yeah, these drops are pretty legit. When they want to do them, they do them well. From here, we stay low, again, right up against the ground. Slight twist to the right, and then you rocket up into a twisted double up. This entire time that you're traveling through the layout, you do not lose any speed at all whatsoever. And you'll see that'll continue all the way into the final brake run. After this double up, we drop back down into another bank turn. I like the little snap out that this element has. Pretty aggressive rotation, and you level out into your final 3 hills. This drop right here into the trench was the biggest surprise of Colossus. Because with how many moments you're right up against the ground, you know how much room you have to the floor, but they've hidden this trench right in the middle of 2 other elements, so it completely catches you off guard. This is like the second biggest drop on the ride. and you feel it. You are starting and ending with a huge drop, and I love it. And Colossus just ends with 2 final airtime hills there, a double up into the brake run. What an ending. Arguably the best paced coaster in the park and the best paced layout of any GCI. There is no fluff at all, and to be fair, GCIs usually don't. I think what I like about their rides is that they don't usually have like one moment that stands out above the rest. I think about Thunderhead or Mystic Timbers. I see it as a full package experience where everything just flows. It's not like there's one moment that's definitively the best. And I feel like that is also the case on Colossus. The only element that maybe stands out is the last drop, but it just works as a unit. And it feels natural. It is a gimmick-free layout, and it feels like that's getting harder and harder to come by. It's just good. In a park with several other gimmicky attractions, gimmicks that work, mind you, I'm still glad they went with something that just focuses on being a memorable experience, and that's it. It takes the best features of classic GCIs and combines it with new, bold maneuvers that I feel like pays homage to like old school intimate elements, but also modern day maneuvers like what you might see on an RMC. They found a balance, and that's why I think this is one of GCI's most impressive rides. If you like Texas Stingray, it feels like that, but dialed up. But that being said, as much as I love the layout, I can't give the ride a perfect score because as of my personal experiences on the attraction, the trains negatively affected the ride. Colossus has the potential to be my second favorite ride at Six Flags Qiddiya, only behind Falcon's Flight. But out of the big 4 coasters, I feel like this is the only one that has that inherent negative. And if they're able to fix that, more power to them. I'll reconsider, but I think as of right now, it's my 3rd favorite behind Iron Rattler. So for a final score, I'm giving it an 8.5 out of 10. Most of that is because I think the layout is just incredibly impressive and it rode really smooth. I believe it uses Ipe, the same wood that we see on like Texas Stingray and Ghost Rider. It's much stronger and likewise also more expensive than a traditional Southern Yellow Pine. The trick will be if it ages well because Saudi is obviously a very hot climate. Will a wood coaster age well out there, or could one day they, potentially put like Titan Track on it and just make it all steel? I hope not. I prefer that wood coasters stay wood in its intended form. But if that one day happens, I hope it's at least not for a long time. I like to think that they're going to take good care of this. And if one day it does get too rough, it 100% will detract from the ride experience. This thing is so intense, any pothole is a sure way to get a headache. You're going so fast. I rode Shivering Timbers for the first time this summer, and that ride has a ton of speed through it, some really great moments, but it was getting so rough at parts that it made it painful to enjoy, and I really don't want Colossus to ever get to that point. If they can fix the trains, to me it's absolutely a 10. I was tempted to dock off more than a 1.5 because I really was not a fan of the restraints, and the only reason I'm not is because I genuinely believe this can and will be fixed. I heard from a lot of people at Six Flags Qiddiya who rode this that felt the exact same way as I did. And with it being a new park, they have kinks they need to work out across the board. I think this just happens to be one of them. So let's give it some time, see what happens. But regardless, I highly recommend this attraction. If you've had the opportunity of experiencing Colossus, please let me know down in the comments below what you think of it, if you agree with the points that I brought up. And of course, make sure to stay tuned for more coaster reviews here at Coaster Studios, and I'll see you next time.